bean that has a unique smell with it. This is all artisan.
Does he have that stuff?
He might. I mean, I'm sure he uses it.
I smell his saffron. His saffron's pretty dope.
Yeah, they have his saffron
super
mixed with
strong.
it too. Yeah. I mean, they have a lot of different ways. It's an artisan craft, right? So they've spent like even the way they distill the oud, like the double distillation method, and all of that it will impact the way that it smells.
Have you had the artisan bread?
Yeah.
It's really good, bro.
All right, we're going live.
Sim made it for me.
They have it at Aldi too.
No, but Sim made homemade bread.
Do you make homemade bread? You've done it before?
He's had made it before.
I've made it
all the time.
not all the time.
It's too much of a problem.
Skew is
too
really
difficult.
into that. Skew makes his own bread, actually. He doesn't buy it. He actually makes his own bread all the time.
But it's not difficult. The thing about it's just time consuming. Like you can get almost the same quality bread by buying it.
Would you rather have that or rotis, bro? Like parathe at home, rotis.
I don't know.
Belan se. Do your parents still do that? My mom still does that. Belan se rotis.
No, my friend though, you guys remember Ashar, right? He used to have in his backyard. He had a tandoor. They built it, so he'd always make fresh tandoor.
Oh.
Nothing like fresh.
Nothing. And the smell.
You could
Intoxicating.
You could eat like literally like crap. Like I mean, literally with fresh naan, it tastes great.
Yeah.
There's something about
really
fresh
nice.
naan.
Put some nice Kerrygold butter on there, bro. Dude, bread and butter. I don't know what it is about bread and butter, bro. It's like
So
the best thing in the
simple,
world, bro.
But it's so good. Yeah, but you know what they say too? Like the other food. Another thing is like olive oil and fresh bread.
With za'atar.
Yep.
That's it.
Za'atar and olive
Bro,
oil.
it's getting me emotional.
The Italians have Parmesan cheese and olive oil.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
that's good too. But
that's what I
za'atar
want.
and oil.
With feta cheese. Allah.
But I like with the olive oil on that one. Though.
Bro, I'm so hungry right now. It's not even.
You're always
Assalamu
hungry.
alaikum and welcome to the Mad Mamluks.
Should have gave us a
We
warning.
got a show going on here, Shabab.
You gotta come with a powerful like. Welcome to the Mad Mamluks.
What's going on, everyone? That's what the.
Can you do a Krusty the Clown?
No, you know the YouTuber the standard.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah, that's too cheesy,
I can't
bro.
do that. Bro.
Welcome back
I
to
can't-
another
Just
episode.
do your thing, bro.
I just say.
Just do your mood, bro. That's
He's
it.
like, hello everybody, welcome back to the Mad
I know, it
Mamluks.
sounds really nice, actually. Very
You
soothing.
used to be like real passionate before.
Really?
Yeah, you were like, hey everybody,
Bro, it comes with
today
age,
we have a
dude.
very special episode for you today, or like something
Don't fake
like,
it, bro. Don't fake
you
it.
know,
Just do
like-
your thing, Sam. Don't fake it.
I don't know.
Be genuine, dude.
I thought about it and I was like,
You have to fake psych yourself out to be. If you're not excited, don't be
I
excited,
just
bro.
hate them, hate the standard YouTube
Yeah.
intro.
Just do you, bro.
What's going on, everyone?
Yeah, it's
And
not
then
real though.
I just
It's
can't
fake.
stand it,
It's
man.
not. It's not real. Anyways, Bismillah, man.
Cold open. Let's just do it. Folks, before we get the show started, make sure you click on the old like button and hit subscribe if you haven't already. And be sure to drop a comment in the comment section for this show.
please share the videos, you guys, please. Like, let's do it right now. Like, I mean, you guys can share it on your Twitter feeds and whatever. That really helps our algorithm. Like, that's really important to us because, a lot of you guys have been commenting. Sorry, I don't want to take it from you. A lot of you guys have been commenting, make timestamps. You guys should be more popular. But these shows, any Muslim show is going to be by word of mouth. So if you want us to be more popular, then you're going to have to share it. It's just the bottom
especially
line.
there's a whole lot of algorithm manipulation. The folks at YouTube don't like us. I don't know. Sometimes there's an inside person. We're finding that out from Twitter when all the documentations related to how certain people's accounts were suppressed in Twitter. There's people who end up having a vendetta against you. There could be even Muslims. It's not even non-Muslims. It could be like liberal-minded Muslims are like, I don't want the Mad Mamluks to be a popular show, and like kind of bury them in the algorithm. So that's that. I mean, we can do what we can, but we're happy with our little community. Inshallah, it grows. If it doesn't, that's fine too.
Oh well, we're here to
You
have
know
fun,
what?
bro. This is our hobby.
Everyone builds their ark. That's what I've learned from reading the stories of Nuh in the Quran. And our ark, we build it as strong and sturdy as possible. We try to invite as many people to it. And at the end of the day, if you don't want to be part of that, that's fine. Build your own ark and let's see. If it
Basically,
if it can stand the
As
weather.
long as you build
If
something,
you're not
bro.
jumping in the ark, you guys think we condemned to the hellfire. So you think,
Well, that's-
'cause the
You gotta
ark
do
of
your own
Noah,
thing,
I
bro.
mean, look, the story of Noah is like a story that's made for almost for children now. It's like, all these cute little animals went on a boat and and isn't it such a nice, wonderful? Like, it's almost like a fairy tale, you know.
Just saving the animals.
But it doesn't talk about like the metaphorical aspect of what the Prophet Nuh was doing. He was building an ark to weather the storm, and he was being called crazy and all kinds of horrible language, and he was ultimately abandoned by his wife and his own son, one of his sons at least. And at least from when I read it, I realize like, hey, we're in that same stormy time where we don't have the privileges that the previous Muslim civilizations had, where they lived in Dar al-Islam, and they had all these mechanisms in place to protect their family unit.
Yeah.
And we don't anymore. We are on our own, and yes, we may have some kind of masjid and some Islamic organizations across various countries, but we're ultimately left to our own devices. If we don't have any kind of outside intervention from other organizations and stuff, it's in all likelihood that your family unit will collapse.
No.
If not in this generation, it'll collapse in subsequent generations.
But that's what happened with all the stories. You made a great observation. All of these heavy hitting stories have become children's stories, and even on a higher level, that's how we see many people when they talk about the stories of the prophets. They talk about the stories of Rasulullah. It's almost like a children's story, but the proactivity, the change that's supposed to occur on a societal level, that's the part, which is the main part, which is not really expounded upon, right? Yeah. What are we practically supposed to do based off the hijrah? Why did Rasulullah make hijrah? Why did Musa alayhi salam have to make this hijrah? Why did all this happen? Did Allah just tell him to go talk to Fir'aun, and he said, can I take my brother with me just so he can be a better person? Like, what was happening there, right? Yes, the wavelength that children are on, you have to address them according to their wavelength. I get it. But
it's the story of Nuh is more unique in that sense, where it just stuck as a children's story.
Yeah,
and it's a terrible
true.
Like
Noah's Ark.
It's a terrible warning where Prophet Noah is saying at the end of it, is saying, "Oh Allah, destroy them all.
Yeah.
Like finish the rest of the world who is worshiping you, because I fear that they may spread whatever evil that they have across the world." And it's a tragedy, but it's also a new hope, because the entire world gets washed clean, and then it starts anew.
What is since we're talking about this, what's the biggest lesson that you take away from the story of Noah?
You're asking me? What do I think?
Yeah, both of you guys. What do you guys think? I'll tell you mine later, but what's the biggest lesson?
So the thing that's very, very hard hitting, I think there's many lessons. I don't think there's just one biggest one.
But the biggest one I'm saying you take from it.
I think the fact of submission, I think, takes the winner. The fact that he has a conversation with Allah and he says, "Oh Allah, my son, do something to save my son," and he says he's not your son, right? And then right away, Nuh alayhi salam apologizes to Allah. He says, "Forgive me for me wronging," and basically saying that he's my son. The beautiful thing that's happening here is Allah. What happens in a natural order of our life, that's limited to our life. But Allah is the decider. Allah is the creator. So if Allah tells him that he's not your son, right away he says, "Allah, he's not my son." You're right. Because no one else has a right to tell Nuh alayhi salam who his son is other than Allah. And that utmost submission takes place. And he says, "Allah, you say he's not my son?" Instead of saying, "I get it," he's like, "Allah, forgive me for my shortcoming. He's not my son." Right? That utmost submission, which is the if you were to take all the prophets, Muhammad ﷺ is the amalgam of all the prophets, right? Yeah. Every single one of his stories throughout his 23 years is reminiscent of the 25 prophets that were mentioned in the Quran, right? So I think talking about the submission of Muhammad ﷺ with a different type of rahmah, though, is referring to the submission of Muhammad ﷺ in Nuh alayhi salam, right? And Allah is reminding him, strengthening his resolve. But I think that submission, that every prophet, why they were made a prophet, was just overwhelmingly powerful.
Mine was the fact that he lived 800 years, and hundreds of years of those were spent in building the ark, warning people.
Prophethood 900 years, we lived 1,050 years.
950 years, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
950 years, sorry, prophethood, yeah.
950 years, right?
Of just prophethood, yeah.
And so hundreds of those years were just spent on being ridiculed, reminding people and imploring people to come. And you learn a few things from that. When human beings are incredibly stubborn creatures, you could, and when you give them the best advice, you implore to them to think using their mind, and and essentially, when you read the Quran, that's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is imploring us to use it's imploring the polytheists to use their head, use their reason, use their good sense, their good judgment, their intellect that He awarded them with, that He awarded all of humanity with. He said, hey, what are you doing worshiping these rocks? Worship me, the true creator, and ultimately, like, you kind of understand why, like, one of the most difficult things to grapple with, being a Muslim or being even Christians and stuff, they have a difficulty understanding why hellfire, right? Because it's such a horrible destination and it's a permanent destination, right? But you understand, like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's test to humanity was that you use your better judgment and make good decisions. Use your aql that He awarded you with, and you're ignoring that in face of what traditions, forefathers, all these different excuses people come up with for them to not abandon their rocks and idols, and so that's one
and that's the thing. The truth is easier too, though. I mean, it's easier to understand.
Right.
It's difficult to do, but it's easier to understand.
Right. It's easy
because it's truth.
Exactly. Well, we have that compass already built in us towards truth. You can give a child the most horrible upbringing, but they still know what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
And they have that compass still working towards, like, if truth wasn't built into us, then there should be an equal amount of compulsive liars as truth. Right?
That's a cool observation.
Like, if truth wasn't built into us, our societies should be collapsing because of the ability. There's an inherent proclivity or an inclination among us to want to say truthful things, even whether Muslim or non-Muslim.
Or animals too.
We want to say the truth. And it's the willful disregard. You make a decision in your brain where you say, I'm not going to be truthful about certain things. And then what happens? Things start compounding. Those lies that you've created, some of them started off as small lies. They compounded and became bigger lies. And then ultimately you saw a distortion of reality with Prophet Nuh's son, where he can't make sense of his father's inviting him to the boat, to the ark, and he's saying, I'll find some refuge in a cave.
Yeah, on the mountain. Yeah, on the
He's
mountainside.
these aren't like small waves, folks. These are at this time the boat is floating. It's like giant waves are crashing everywhere, and he's imploring his son to come to his boat, and he's saying, no, I'll figure things out myself. Because why? He lied to himself. He was laughing probably at his own father for many of those years. He was secretly mocking them, and the truth came of what the Prophet Nuh was promising. He was saying that this
imagine
is
what
come.
that. No, so the truth thing is very important because look, he ridiculed his own father and belittled so much, even though he knew it was right. But the waves, even though they were so powerful, this is how dangerous believing in falsehood, even though you know the truth, is because you're willing to sacrifice something you know that's impossible to survive just to not accept the truth because you're so used to lying to yourself. The second thing is, imagine the rahmah Allah has on Rasulullah to strengthen his resolve. Muhammad just Battle of Badr had more followers than 950 years of prophethood than Nuh alayhi salam. Imagine that, right? 310, 318. What's Allah telling him? Look, what you're going through right now, that's fine, but let's talk about Nuh alayhi salam. So he gives him this entire story just to strengthen his resolve.
Wow.
It's ajib.
So
and
for me-
then just let me wrap this up. The symbolism of the ark itself, it's something that should be built into every Muslim man, someone who's a caretaker, a shepherd. Building your ark is the most symbolic. I think in the Quran it's called safina, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what the Arabic term is.
Ship. Yeah.
So the ark and building it is what every man should aspire towards, building his not just home but his fortitude, his mission, his direction in life, where he's imploring his family and people he loves and imploring them to join this ship
Get on the ship.
go forward.
Yep.
Go forward towards khair, go towards Jannah, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm sorry, Mort. Go
Mort.
ahead.
No.
Number one
I mean,
lesson.
points are great, but I was thinking about this, and you know the Quran has duality in a lot of ways, right? But there's also complementary themes too, right?
Yeah.
So in the story of Nuh, I think about the complementary relationship between patience and submission. Because a lot of times you see the opposite, right? For example, we see the destruction in the new beginning, right, in the story, but how Nuh alayhi salam had to endure being patient and then combine that with his submission. Because you would think that, I was patient for 950 years. I'm supposed to get all this. I'm supposed to get, something good's going to come to me. I did all this for 950 years. And then he realizes his family's not saved.
Two most beloved people to him.
And then so that's automatically, he doesn't expect anything from Allah. Meaning that he was hopeful, of course, like a human being, but he was quick to submit. So that it kind of shows you like how we talk about balancing hope and fear. This is kind of like that balance between patience and submission. Because we always say, with patience comes ease, and all this, with hardship comes ease. We talk about that, right? But sometimes it's just a matter of submission. Like you don't get the expected outcome that you want. You're trying. You're trying to save everybody. You're trying to save the whole world. You're trying to do all this stuff. You're building the ark. You're calling people to it. You're calling your family to it. You're doing all this without question. Allah is going to save me. Allah is going to save me. Allah is going to do the right thing. You have all this. You're assuming good of your Lord, and then the thing happens, and it's not what you thought it was going to be. But rather than saying why, he submits. So it's almost like saying that patience means nothing without submission.
SubhanAllah. That's
because you have to submit, because the result of that patience should be submission. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. That's when you get the good tiding. But how can you be patient without submission? It's complementary. You can't say I'm patient
That's
and then
beautiful.
be hasty in your decision or in your reward or whatever it may be. So for me, I look at that and I'm like, imagine going through that. Because, when we, for example, I'm going to pray today because Allah is going to give me blessings. Or don't forget to pray Salatul Asr because you get rizq from it, right? People always justify these things to themselves. But even if it doesn't come, does that affect their iman? Does that affect their submission? For some people, it does. I did this for so long. I prayed for this. I prayed for that. It didn't come through. It didn't happen for me. Why is this happening to me? And that could be easily the response.
I'm getting nothing out of it. I hear that.
Exactly.
I'm getting nothing out of this. Yeah.
But for him, from his patience, it went hand in hand with his submission. And so for me, that was like the biggest lesson. Because you always find the opposites, right? Like a duality in the Quran. And we still see it in the story of Noah, right? Like that, for example, all the people in the world, and then there's adab, but then after adab, like we see that the people were arrogant before, and then they were submissive after. Like, for example, we know, I think they say by the hadith that in the first of Rajab is when the ark landed, right? But the people were fasting. They fasted for 10 days because they were making shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's a opposition of the people that were arrogant, right? So we see the duality, right? But this is kind of like that complementary relationship, how we talk about hope and fear. This is like submission and peace, and patience and submission. So that's the lesson that I got from this.
SubhanAllah, bro. Beautiful. Folks, before we move on to our next subject, I promised I would talk about my cybersecurity course. We're basically starting a new course. We had a successful course that ended right before Ramadan. We had a number of students, including our very own Sheikh Amr joined the program as well.
Yeah.
It's a 5-week course where yours truly, would walk you through all the steps you need to take in order to land your first cybersecurity gig.
Yeah.
One of the things that's really important to me is not to promise you that, you for sure you're going to get a job after the 5-week course. What the course is designed for is to make a roadmap for you so that you can get your first IT job. You're not going to be able to, if anyone is offering a course where you're going to make X amount of money, ridiculous sums of money after a few weeks, they're lying to you. It's just not possible. If that was possible, you would end up, the market for that position would be saturated, and it's just not true. What I do is I walk you through a step-by-step program where you have a basic understanding of certain areas of IT that you need to understand to get your first job.
Yeah.
Now, typically it'll take you maybe between 6 months to a year if you're really dedicated. Some people, if you want to do it on the part-time, it'll take them up to 2 years before they can actually get their first job. But the idea is we set up an outline for you and set you on your path. Now, we have also a continuing education program for people who have already taken the course, and that's going to be like a monthly subscription, nominal fee around like $50 or something. But go to imranmunier.com and check it out yourselves. Sheikh, what was your thoughts being part of the class?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you actually set those expectations. I've been a part of different crews that have promised certain things, right? And the first thing is you made it realistic. And you didn't tell me, guys, Sim didn't tell me to say this. I'm just going to be 100% honest, right? The reason why, one of the main reasons why I joined that class is because I actually wanted to know how cybersecurity works, right? But the bonus that I got from it, I didn't know this was going to be a part of it. I thought you were going to jump right into Security Plus and all that kind of stuff and certifications and interviews and stuff, which you did. Every lesson had an element of what to expect on an interview, which I liked a lot. The other is you started from scratch. If somebody doesn't know anything about cybersecurity, it was a big review for me of how computers work, where security elements come in. Just a simple thing like I never thought about is like the first type of security is you locking your computer, right? This on a personal level. Like those examples are very important. It made the security class, because when someone thinks of cybersecurity, like, oh my God, I got to become an engineer now. But then those simple examples that were being dropped by you, mashallah, is just as simple as, hey, lock your computer before you leave your workstation, whatever the case is, right? And then it made me really honestly feel like, hey, this is so doable, right? And that's why I kind of felt like I wasn't excelling in the class, but it became a lot easier for me because you took that intimidation away from me of cybersecurity. Like you just think of engineer right away, a guy who's got like 10 screens in front of him and like scoping out hackers and all that kind of stuff. But then you realize, hey, dude, this is very doable, right? And that's what I liked about it. And then it made it realistic of you repeatedly saying, look, guys, this is for you to get your foot in the door. It's not for you to be a master, but it's going to pave the way to be a master. And one thing is, look, one thing I realize is I think I'm going to take that course again, the first thing that you did, because not just at work that we got more security like demands coming in and stuff for me to understand, and maybe I'll never get into cybersecurity. But one thing that it did for me is it built my confidence, and it made me realize that things aren't always as complicated or as difficult as you think it is. You just have to have a good instructor to tell you simple, literally like ground up bricklaying of this is how it is, this is how it is, this is what you should expect. And people need that, bro. We need nurturing. We're elementary students again.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And basically the idea was that we take even someone with just general computer knowledge, basic level, not completely new, that you don't know how to use a keyboard and you don't know what a USB port is. There are people like that out there. I can't walk you through that basic level, but if you have the general idea of how to, use a computer, you can understand IT and you can get acquainted pretty well with, at least have a good understanding or a good foundation to build on top of, and then take that from there. Because ultimately, cybersecurity is a lot of mindset related items. So you're thinking, what I first start off, at least with the class, is just talking about real life examples that any person would be that would relate to people on a personal level, like the windows of their house, or the locks, or the computer monitor, or the TV screen that has a smart TV that's connected to the internet. How do you secure these things? You have to start thinking about things in a security mindset.
Yeah.
And that
was important too.
Yeah.
You kept on talking about mindset.
Yeah.
Think of yourself as like how would you secure this? How would you do this? And even just the fact, I still remember almost 100% about the whole VPN when we started talking about VPNs, that whole thing, because we use it at work. I didn't really know exactly how it works, but by giving simple examples. The other thing is, which is really, really awesome. Number one, there's a few things. Number one is, bro, a majority of the people that are Muslim.
Yeah.
Right? We're hearing people and you just linking things to Islam here and there. Bro, that's awesome. The second thing is, bro, there's millions of YouTube videos on cybersecurity. And I watched a lot of them and I zone out after 3 minutes, bro.
Yeah.
When you're a part of a class with like-minded people and with Muslims, and you have it in your calendar, you want to join that. And the other thing is, if people are paying, bro, they're gonna be there.
And
right?
Chances are, because of the makeup of the class and stuff, I end up working harder for them.
No, of course, and they're good dudes. A lot of dudes just talking about good stuff, giving their own little insights, having those little like side jokes about Islam, not about Islam, but regarding Muslim culture and Muslims and saying Bismillah, bro. All that adds up to it, bro.
Yeah,
I think. Not just saying that. I think everyone should do it, bro.
Yeah, I think many people will find it very beneficial, even if you don't want to take your career into IT. But understanding security and having a secure household and knowing your way or navigating technology is incredibly useful. So,
and you realize how intelligent some of those guys are. Can I name drop, or can I?
Yeah.
The people that were in the class, like one of the people, like that dude Fahad, like that,
Shibli.
mashallah, bro. Like you could tell that dude did his research.
Yeah.
He came back, and you see all these different people who are very beginner and people who advance, and you're like, dude, this is a nice mix of people.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? You learn from everybody.
So I'll say this from experience, like just knowing Sim, like he's going to walk. I haven't taken the class, but I know how his mind works because I've known the guy for 30 years.
And lived with him.
Calm down.
What? I'm just saying. That's how you know somebody.
You're getting excited. Calm down.
What's that about?
You're getting excited. Okay. Anyways, no, but I mean,
helping your case, bro.
We've been in IT for a long time, for a while, and we've taken the shortcuts, we've taken the hard ways. So knowing someone on the inside who knows how to get you the information that you're going to need, that's beneficial to you. Because when you go through regular courses, they might do comprehensive material, which is all good. But when you're trying to break through in and you don't really have experience in IT, one of the biggest things people will tell you is that finding a way to relate that information to an interview is the most difficult thing. Because there's a lot of unknowns when you're going for an interview. And if someone who has experience can prepare you and to get you more acclimated with the types of questions and the mindsets of people that are going to be interviewing you, and creates a course around that, it becomes far more beneficial for you, and everything that you learn is applicable. Because there's a lot of things that people will learn and they get on the job and it has nothing to do with what they're doing. We're not saying it's not important. What I'm saying is that you can learn that at your own pace. We want to just get you in the front door.
Yeah.
Right? Get you in the front door, get your feet wet. And that requires you to do some work. And I don't know if someone wants to say that, but I mean, it's not something you just kind of sit passively on the weekend and just say, oh, I'm going to just, kind of, no. If you want to do something and you're willing to put the effort in, he can give you the tools you need, right?
Yeah.
But I can give you a hammer, I can give you a nail, but I can't build your house for you, right? And that's what he's going to do here. So I think we talk a lot about the show in a lot of ways, being men, upping your financial game, preparing for the future, right? We talk about things like this, like, hey, the landscape of things in the future is changing. So even if you're in a current career or you feel good or you have some doubt or you don't know, this is a career that's going to be around for a long time.
It's still very new. It's a very new emerging technology or field of IT. Many companies still haven't taken it very seriously yet, and they're learning the very, very hard way where they're getting hacked. I just heard about a medical institution that had all their files held for ransom, and they had to pay several $1 million to get it.
Wow.
Not only that,
unlocked,
we happened
yeah.
in our company where not us, but a vendor of ours was hacked, and they're a large vendor for many people. But because of their hack, it affects our company too, because our data is, some of our private data is with them. It's not a hosting, but it's just through business, right? And if you work in these industries in corporate America, you can hear every month or so there's some kind of leak, or if you get that email that, hey, you know what, change your password, you haven't changed it in a while, that's usually indicative of some leak or some exposing happening.
Yeah.
Right? And so they won't want to broadcast it, although there's some regulation about how much you have to disclose. Eventually it comes out, but it happens all the time. It's not just about private companies, it's your credit bureaus. I mean, so many different things that you don't that affect you. You don't think they affect you, but they affect you. It could be your medical data. It could be your private. So you could just be on a website, your email. But all that stuff, people don't realize that when you say secure your stuff, you might think, oh, it's just my email. But that may be that one piece of the puzzle that hacker's looking for.
Yeah,
that he
I
needs
remember
to
you
get.
talking about that. Yeah,
exactly.
Might be the last piece. Yeah,
Right, and that's even if you aren't interested in pursuing a field in IT or in cybersecurity. The course could be very useful for you in the sense of just securing your data, knowing how to protect yourself when you're traveling so that your phone isn't hacked or...
Oh, it may be a lot more cognizant, bro.
Yeah.
Just even locking my car doors more often.
Yeah. Being in that security management, because you're always a target, and people who are attackers are always canvassing and trying to figure out your psychological profile and trying to determine what is the best mechanism to infiltrate your bank account, your financial information, just access to your confidential information, right? So there's a lot of what's called social
Engineering.
engineering.
Yeah, but I just want to make this point. They've gotten so smart now where they want to track your psychological profile, right? And say, because look, if they can hack your information, let's say they were able to hack. Some people would have a Gmail, right? Let's say they hacked it.
Yeah.
And many people use Google passwords. Or they have, let's say, their financial information stored on the desktop as a Google form, whatever, right? You can autofill, right? Mm-hmm. If they can track what you've been doing, like how you spend your money, they can make purchases to mimic your behavior. So you won't even know, and credit card companies won't even know that your behavior is off, right? So they can, let's say they know that every month you spend about $500 on Amazon. They can start making those kind of those purchases, and then by the time you realize it, right, it's already 2-3 months down the line. They've got what they wanted. They've got your information. So it's I don't want to make anyone paranoid, but this kind of information is relevant. When you think cybersecurity, it's not just computers and you're sitting there and screwing on things, and that's not what it is. It's a mindset, like he said. It's an understand, and for you to understand that, you want to be able to. I think the course would be a great start for that, because he's not going to do a deep technical dive into it, whatever. But he's going to get you in the mindset that even if you're not going to be in the position of being a cybersecurity expert, at least the very minimum, right? You can protect your own selves, your families, and that's super important, especially if you have children. You have wives with photos, daughters, right, sisters, to have pictures, and you want, because how many times have you heard of, very low quality men and degenerates that are trying to hack people and manipulate, photos of sisters, things like this, that you just getting your mindset right, understanding what threats are out there, and that's what I think would be really beneficial thing at the very least, right? So yeah. Anyways,
all right, guys.
What's next? What's on the agenda for today? We got the fundraising out of the way.
Just go to Imranmunier.com if you do want to sign up. The course itself is $289 for ongoing students. There's a monthly program that we're setting up, so you can find out all the details over there.
Yes, by the way, Omar Sheikh, yes, you can sign your 15-year-old son up if he just wants to get information and get his feet wet. You could definitely do that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm so glad he brought that up, because I designed the course because I wanted my daughter to get involved in cybersecurity, because she's just not the traditional education program where she wants to go to 4-year college. So I was like, well, how do I get her to get into this? So it's as simple as that. Even a teenager could get into it.
And the benefit of, I like how you took that time just to show people how to use OneNote and how to partition their ideas and their thoughts.
Notes,
how to take notes properly. That was super important, dude.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So let's go ahead and move on to the situation in Turkey.
Turkiye.
Tayyip.
Erdogan. Tayyip.
Tayyip, Rajab.
Jayyid. Tayyip and Jayyid are like two different forms of the same thing, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of. They similar
Tayyip has a
meaning.
slightly different meaning, but yeah, more pure, but yeah.
So Tayyip Erdogan.
Tayyip Erdogan, yeah. So
Tayyip
what's happening?
Rajab Erdogan.
So
Rajab.
for those uninitiated, when you guys give us a lowdown?
Uninitiated.
For those of
Oh,
people,
that's a new one.
no, I hear that all
Have
the
you
time.
heard of that before? Uninitiated?
Yeah, I learned it from Sim. Anyways, so can you guys, Mort, stop getting excited, okay? So can you, when do you guys give us a lowdown of what's happening for those people who?
I'll defer to Sim on that.
Well, basically, we have Tayyip Erdogan facing off against a name I can't pronounce. I'll just call him Kurdolu from Ertugrul.
Gundigo. Call him Gundigo.
No, but do you guys know his name?
Wait, hold on. Wait, who was the traitor on Ertugrul? Let's name him that.
Kurdolu.
Yeah.
That's why I'm calling him Kurdolu.
Yeah, Kurdolu. That is a traitor.
So
Traitor guy, bro.
His name is spelled kind of like that. So I honestly don't know how to pronounce his name. So I looked it up and I'm like, this is too complicated. So I'm just going to call him Kurdolu on the show.
Okay.
So Erdogan is facing off against Kurdolu. And Kurdolu, before the elections, was polling very well across Turkey. Like, people thought that this guy is legitimately going to take him down and possibly unseat our friend Erdogan. And well, the polls weren't totally off, but the election happened over the weekend, and Erdogan survived by initially the polls were showing him well past 52. I think he was like 52%. And then he dipped down below 50.
So that's very normal for Turkish elections, by the way, because the smaller towns get counted first because they're more people vote quicker because it's smaller and the district counts quicker, right? And the way
kind of like in America.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because the smaller areas, once the largest, it takes more time to count. But most of Erdogan's support comes from the middle, like the center and like the rural areas, and the opposition usually comes from like the major cities in the outside area. So as time went on, as the gap shrunk between Erdogan and Kulu, whatever his name is. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think one of the more interesting things was though, people were wondering. Like, I had a brother who asked me a question, and it was why. Did the areas close to Gaziantep, why did they vote for, why was it predominantly for the opposition?
Yeah.
And you would think that that's an area predominantly that's Muslim, right? I mean, very traditional, because a lot of the Syrians had ended up settling there, and people that are familiar with Turkey will tell you that, it's so much so that Arabic is being spoken like pretty much all over the place there. So why would that place vote for the opposition? Well, it ends up being, I had a hunch, but I wasn't sure, but I ended up researching, it was correct. But it was at the Kurdish area, the Kurdish group there had made an allyship as, for the political party, or they drew allyship with the opposition party. And so the Kurds in that region voted for, a big block of them voted for the opposition. And so that's why you see that little patch in support of the opposition, but traditionally would have been in support of Erdogan.
Okay, so Kilik Daroglu, why shouldn't he win? Like, what's the difference? What's happening?
I'll let Sim talk about it, but I'll just say this. I think there's a meme that I saw that kind of defines why, right? On the day of the election, you see Daroglu, whatever.
Kilik Daroglu.
Daroglu, okay. Gulu. He was, after he votes, he goes and he pays his respect to Ataturk. And when Erdogan, after the election day, he's in the Hagia Sophia making dua and praying.
Yeah, I remember that.
And to me, like, that is the biggest difference, the starkest difference between
Someone could say that's just a meme, that's not real.
No, but I'm saying that's it's actually reflective of the mentality. One party seeks to revive that mentality of Ataturk and the idea of, that Islam has no place in society and should be completely separate, right? And intends to roll back the little Islamic progress that we've made, meaning lessening the kufr in that region. And there's another party that has its faults, but they certainly have policy that lessen the kufr. They have a more Islamically conscious mind, at least in certain aspects like hijab and turning, reclaiming the Islamic identity in certain areas and pushing that agenda for that, right? And making people more aware of their Islamic past and bringing that to the future, right? And having an agenda to support, forget about just also the internal politics, right? But also the position that Turkey has played in terms of aiding other Muslim countries. The secularists don't want any of that. They think the Arabs are on their own, the Somalis are on their own, the Pakistanis on their own. They don't want it's not their benefit because they're secular, right? Erdogan, I'm not saying he does everything for foreigners, but there certainly is a mindset that makes people conscious of a global Muslim community as opposed to just being Turks, right? So I think, although the meme is just a meme, but I think it's very indicative of the mindset between the both of them.
Got it.
Yeah. One of the most important things to understand regarding why the Turkish elections is so important and significant.
That's what I want to know.
Is that, first of all, Turkey among all the Muslim countries is the most developed, the most first world like nation, at least among all Muslim countries. Yes, you can make a case for Saudi Arabia as well, but at least in terms of the ability to be more applicable towards Muslims, I think, in taking a more leadership role among Muslims, whereas Saudi Arabia kind of picks and chooses when it wants to take that mantle, based on political things. But Turkey will step up to the plate and advance the causes. And I think after that would be under Imran Khan, Pakistan. They would try to do whatever they can.
Surface level, on face value.
Yeah, even on the face value, it's much better than nothing. Like Imran Khan in his diplomatic visits to Russia and stuff, that you would ask about the treatment of Muslims in Russia, etc. Right? So you don't see a head of state acting on behalf of Muslims.
That's why people are pretty excited about Erdogan and Imran Khan.
And Imran Khan, right?
Yeah.
And to a lesser extent, there's other people as well, but I don't want to sidetrack the show. But right now, we have these two main actors who are kind of trying to be more populist in their approach, not just from their local population, but also from their worldwide audience as well, and swelling up support from Muslims. In at least with Erdogan's case, he has a lot of Turkish people in Europe who support him. I know much of the Turkish population in Germany are widely in support of him, and not so much in the United States, by the way. In the United States, there's they're very hostile, the Turkish Muslims in the U.S.
I think it relates to that guy that was here.
Yeah, well,
I forgot his name, the school guy who has all this stuff here.
Oh
yeah,
Gulen?
Yeah, Gulenist.
Yeah, Gulen,
the Gulenist movement is very strong here, and that's makes sense because the United States
Fethullah Gulen, that was his name.
Yeah, the United States supports him and have supported the coup that was to take place against Erdogan a few years ago by the Gulenist factions. So, but that's that. So, in regards to the significance, it's basically he is the one who has kind of advanced Muslim causes all across Turkey, brought Turkey more towards a religious country than a secular country. We can't say that it's a Sharia country by any means. We're realists here. We know that, he has to walk a very careful line. He has to give homage to Ataturk at times, when they're...
I mean, based on how he's working, how he's operating, he has to.
He has to.
We're not saying that's cool, but that's just how politics is right now.
Exactly.
I think the bottom line, though, is that when you look at, and we talked about this before too, like what does, according to the fuqaha and scholars in the past, what defines Darul Islam? Is it the fact that it has 100% Sharia all the time? And you'll find in classical writings that's not the case. It's a place where at least the main body of the Muslims, where Islam is thriving among them, like meaning they're worried about their prayer, they're paying their zakat, like Muslims can live a more And if you don't want to accept that it's become better in that regard in Turkey, let's say you want to make your argument, even though I think it has, at the very least, there's one party that's lessening the kufr, and there's one that wants to increase the kufr.
Yeah.
So we're always going to take the option that lessens the kufr for the people, right?
And we know that the Turkish Constitution is a secular constitution.
Yeah.
But we have to understand that, despite that, someone who's bringing the hearts and minds of the people towards Islam in their own manner, yes, sometimes he does things that upsets us. He makes treaties and things with Israel, and of course, we're the first one to criticize him on those issues. But compared to that,
it's the best we have. You're trying to say
it's the best we have.
It's the best we have. It's not optimal by any means, but it's the best we have, right?
And I would say that criticism comes from a place because we expect better, because we actually have hope for him, right? Like we hardly ever talk about all the past Turkish leaders because we didn't expect them to be any different, right? So the fact that he does have that consciousness is why we appeal to it. Hopefully he hears it. It's an advice. It's not that we are against Erdogan. It's it's a nasiha. Like just like we, when you want good for, we see him as a brother, right? Someone who wants good and he wants khair for his people, right? So in that spirit is why we're saying, hey, that should be adjusted. If he was a secular piece of garbage, we wouldn't tell him anything. We wouldn't care, right? Because we expect that from him.
But it also shows you how thirsty everyone is and how bad the whole Muslim world wants Islam. So like this is the most we have right now, so everybody's kind of reaching towards it, right?
Yeah.
But if they had more, like a lot of people think that the Muslim Ummah is not ready for Islam. No, the Muslim Ummah is ready for Islam, but it's unfortunate. But that's all that the Muslim world has right now, right? And when they see something that someone's doing something, like the previous Muslim rulers did, or something that is from Islam, it makes them very, very happy because we have rest of the other bunch of goons that are just sitting there, right? Yeah,
I think someone in the comment wrote something very interesting. I think it kind of encapsulates the spirit of what we're talking about. He says, not gonna lie, when they were chanting Ya Allah, Bismillah, Allahu Akbar in the Ayah Sophia for Erdogan, it gave me goosebumps, right? And I think that chanting, as minimal as that may be, let's say it's just something they maybe not the most practicing, but the very fact that they're in the Ayah Sophia, which is a masjid now, and they're, instead of chanting party slogans, they're remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is something unprecedented in Turkey before Erdogan. Yeah. Right? So I think that alone is an indication that the situation of the Muslims and their mentality is certainly improving. Yeah. Under Erdogan.
What? So I mean, I know we want to make about the elections, but there's a lot of questions that I have too, and they may require a little more analyses. But many rulers of the past and present have used Islam as a composure of Islam, a personality which resembles Islamic personality and a Muslim personality, to get what they want out of their people, right? So how do we know that this is not a facade, in the sense that this is using the sincerity of Muslims and the love of Muslims that they have for Islam to get more of a popular vote, and it just kind of stays there?
So we look at the Zahir, right? We look at the fruits of what he's doing, right? It's not just a statement in this case. I mean, sure, at times maybe he might. I mean, he's a human being. That's the base of his party, is in his movement. However, I think with enough evidence in real time that we can look at to suggest that there's clearly a change in policy in Turkey. There's a change in attitude. Clearly the way he aids certain countries. The action he took when Syrians were coming into Turkey, right? Those are measurable actions that you can say, okay, it's not just a slogan. Like, I'm not saying he's perfect, but that has to count for something, right? Actions speak louder than words. Yeah. Like, how many countries were so quick to build camps? Like for Syrian refugees, how many were quick to start, intervene on behalf of Palestinians, send a flotilla there, right?
White helmets being trained in Turkey.
Yeah, I mean, I just did aid to Somalia when they needed it, right? Or just mentioning the Muslim issues on global stages, right? Or let's look internally, the Ayah Sophia becoming a masjid. Yeah. 100 years went by, and then Hagia Sophia becomes a masjid. Nobody before him had the audacity, even if they were putting out words. He took the action to do it.
And
right?
he removed several statues and caricatures of Ataturk out of Turkey.
Yeah, and I mean, and obviously you can tell his intention was to keep the Hagia Sophia into a masjid, because he ends up like, you know, scratching out the faces of these previous, you know, because the old regime had unpainted, like, you know, the iconography of the saints and of the churches, but you can see the conscious effort to blur that out and cover it up, because his intention was long term. It wasn't just like a political move. Like, they actually are rebuilding. They're making it more of a facility that can be used as a masjid, like a grand mosque in Istanbul, right? Like that I mean, these are actions that you can see of someone who's not just saying words.
You went to Turkey after that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I prayed.
That's
I
right.
prayed Juma in Hagia Sophia.
Wow.
It's amazing. Like, to see that, to put up signs, and above that, even lighted signs like Allahu Akbar, you know, or like, you know, Allahu Akbar or Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, like in front of, to see that over the in large light banners. That's amazing. In the middle of the night, I mean, you're walking through the park area and you're hearing the adhan blaring from these places. It's amazing.
And I think that's the move why a lot of people who are contemplating hijrah and moving overseas, they all say, look, it's not by any means the best place that a Muslim will ever think of as being like a Muslim, pure holistic Muslim country, but rather it's the best they have. And it's like you said, it's a mix of the religiosity and the people who are, you know, born and bred in the Western world. It's not a bad transition, right?
So I want to ask a similar question. What would you think? Let's like kind of play devil's advocate here. What would happen if the opposition Gulu Gulu comes into power? Like, I mean, what do you think would be some of the first steps that we would see happen in Turkey?
So yeah, first of all, we have to understand that Erdogan hasn't won because he had to have won over 50% of the vote. So there's going to be a runoff in a couple weeks that will be essentially a redo of the elections, but it's positive, it's more likely than not that he will win that as well, because of several psychological factors that happen as a result of a candidate being in the lead. In the mind of many voters, there's a phenomenon that happens where voters don't want to be on the losing side, and they end up not coming out as enthusiastic as they were, at least for the losing side. So Kurdoğlu, his prospects are very dim unless he can do something fantastic to drum up or shore up support for him to come out to the polls. It's unlikely that he will make up that ground and get the majority. That being said, what was your question again?
What do you think would happen, like, as far as if Gulu Gulu comes into power?
If Gulu Gulu comes into power, he would end up, it would be more of a trend towards secularization and the previous establishment of how Turkey strove to be more European and be accepted by its NATO members, and it would be very much pleasing towards America and its allies that Turkey is moving in a direction that pleases them. And
do you think you would see things like the hijab being rolled back, like hijab bans, or adhan being, not called from the public anymore? Like, do you think you would see those things, or perhaps even the Hagia Sophia returning to the status of a museum?
Yeah, gradually would happen, not all at once, but it's important for even Kurdoğlu to maintain some semblance of Islam. That's why you see in his photo ops there'll be people wearing hijab and stuff, and this is how politicians try to maintain some kind of ties with their opposition as well, so that they kind of form some kind of avenue for voters of the opposition or disgruntled voters to come into them, so that they don't appear to be so bad,
I was going to mention that if anybody in the audience is familiar with some of the talking points of the opposition. I'd be very curious. I don't know, unfortunately. I'm wondering, because I do know when I was in Turkey, one of the biggest gripes was for Erdogan was that, yes, he's good, but for them, they were complaining about the economy. Things had gotten pretty rough. Because Erdogan had a plan
but not
also
just
to
the economy, though. It was based on the anti-immigration, the allowing of Syrian refugees and all this. And they were trying to blame Erdogan for this, that he's causing a collapse of not just the economy, but the Turkish identity. Yeah. So there's a lot of messages related to...
By letting in too many Syrians.
Yeah.
Like,
and refugees.
I'll tell you,
like
when
countries.
I was in walking around Istanbul and somebody would try to sell me something, right? Like whether it be like bootleg perfume, whatever, cologne. And I'm like, no, I'm good. He's like, no, I'm not Syrian.
Oh, snap.
Because they're trying to say, oh, this is my work. Like I'm not I'm not trying to dupe you, right? So there was a sentiment of there's too many Arabs in the area. And there was recently in the Middle East Eye, there was a video that went viral of a Turkish woman who was a reporter for one of these Middle East newspapers. I think it was either the Middle East Eye or Al Jazeera, but she knew Arabic. And she was speaking Arabic to talk to the audience and describing the scenario on the ground. And some secular Turk guy was like, starts almost trying to attack her, saying, don't speak Arabic here. Like, don't speak Arabic. What are you doing? This is Turkey, right? And then she has to tell him that she's actually a Turk, but he's still very pissed, visibly upset.
Yeah.
That,
and no, we have to be honest, bro. Look, Turkey is known. I've been to Turkey twice, but not too long. Just stopovers. But you see, Turks have a chip on their shoulder, on a general level. Not like everybody, but especially the secularist Turks, they have a very a Turkish identity. We have to keep it pure at that level. Look, and this exists in all countries, right? And we're also not going to be pretentious, just to rewind a little bit, we're not going to be pretentious just to say that Muslims who lived under Islamic governments in Islamic history, they didn't have their problems. Wherever humans are, we're always going to have a test, and we're always going to make things. There's no such thing as a perfect place, right? There's no such thing as a perfect place. But with all of that, one thing that really interests me is how Muslims are, especially Muslims that are practicing and really want to see something good for Islam, how they're all looking up to Turkey, right? And I think these elections, people can say whatever they want, but I think these elections will show you where Muslims are as far as them wanting Islam and being very, very devout in obviously their morals and Islamic morals. And that's the reason why I'm watching, why I'm curious about this outcome, is to see. And generally in Islamic history, scholars used to say that the level of the iman of the believers is based on Masjid al-Aqsa. Wherever Masjid al-Aqsa is, that's how you know the moral Islamic compass of Muslims and where we are, right? And politically, just in the political arena, I think Turkey is one of those to a certain degree, not completely, but to a certain degree, to see Turkey being this quote unquote, and I think Turkey was originally scrutinized in the late 90s, early 2000s by the world, but especially Western powers, is because they were because them paying off all their IMF loans, right? Yeah. And they were one of the first countries to do that brought them into this political arena with the first world countries, right?
Yeah, for those who don't know, the IMF is the International Monetary Fund. It's basically a group of banks that gives governments across the world, or developing countries across the world, loans, and
which is generally the U.S. Yeah. IMF is U.S. World Bank is
so
Britain, right?
They end up providing these loans that end up kind of holding a country hostage, where they end up kind of getting drowned in debt. The idea of the loan is to help use that money to build infrastructure or other means of creating or generating, giving a kickstart to the economy. But ultimately, countries end up finding themselves even more in debt and having a lot more issues to contend with because they're drowning in debt. And that's one of the things that Erdogan actually accomplished by getting rid of all these loans and removing that grip of power that was exerted on him, and it also really upset the Western powers. And one of the talking points of his opponent Kurdoğlu was basically, I'm going to reestablish links with America and the West. One of the quotes he actually said was, I'm going to make Turkey more civilized again. Basically meaning that we're going to be part of the civilized world, the whites and the Europeans and the more developed nations, instead of being concerned about the Muslim world.
Make Turkey great
so
again.
If you read between the lines, he's basically saying this Erdogan's worried about Muslims in general in economies that can't benefit Turkey. I'll bring Turkey back into the world stage so that we're working with winners and instead of those losers in Asia and Africa, etc. That's essentially when you read between lines, that's what he's telling the national sentiment among the secular Turks.
Yeah. And I mean, just on a political level, just forget about everything Islamic for right now. Just on a very strictly political level, that builds the morale of his people, right?
Yeah.
Those kind of things build the morale of people who feel that they have a history of being on the world stage in the past, and they're bringing it back type thing, right? So obviously politicians always use those points to build the morale of their people to have confidence in that candidate, obviously. Yeah. Right. But do you think that, and I know I always say it's more reprimands for saying this, do you think if Kilimanjaro comes back in, do you think that there's going to be some sectarianism?
Sectarianism, like how?
Sectarian strife.
Like religious sectarianism?
Yeah, I mean, people opposition. I don't want to say civil war. It's a little hyperbolic, but obviously people not being cool with it, and then having like infighting amongst Turks regarding this new candidate coming into power.
So you mean between like the secular Turks and the religious Turks?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course.
Coups attempted.
If you look at the map, and I should pull this up actually.
Please.
Map.
Let's party.
1 second here. All right, here we go. All right.
Yep, that's a very interesting map. That's what I was talking about, how on the right, which is like very close to Syria, which had a lot of the Arab and Muslim, the quote-unquote Islamist population, how it went to the opposition. So you see the middle of that area, that the orange, that's Erdogan's party.
Oh, wow. But why would the Islamist population...
Because they're still a minority compared to the Kurds. So the Kurdish in that region, they made an allyship with the opposition. The Kurdish
that's
bloc.
What you meant by that.
Yes, and so their districts went to the opposition party. Because they have a parliamentary system, right? So not only are you voting for the leader, the main party that gets domination can get the seat in the office to hold, the presidency.
And what's the tension between? Oh, sorry, I didn't know you were to finish.
The bottom line is, but if you don't have enough if you're not a big party, you can make allyship with other parties to get enough to be a bloc.
And what's the tension between Erdogan and the Kurds? What's up with that?
Well, not all the Kurds, but the Kurdish party, some of them, they have their own agenda, right? As far as Kurdistan, and not to mention that even the ones that live in that region, there's been a heavy influx of Syrians, and maybe some of the rhetoric that the opposition has talked about is it's kind of like the Trump rhetoric, right? Where these immigration is flowing through your borders, right? Like from the Mexican border is wide open, everyone's coming in, criminals are coming in, rapists are coming in. I'm sure that rhetoric was parroted. And people who are upset at their own situation, it's easy to blame someone, otherize other people, right? Yeah. And use them as a political tool, right? So that could have happened, right? Where, hey, we don't have that many jobs. Inflation is high. Prices have gone up, right? Too many Syrians here. Too much crime has gone up, right? And in reality, all those things kind of tie to many different issues, but they tie together. But that can be used as rallying points for the opposition.
Yeah, the evil of nationalism.
Like what has Erdogan done for you? Like you're worse off now than ever, right? I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna close the borders, make it make Turkey great again. Whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, every country has that. People think that because of Trump and the insight, but this happens in all countries. You know what I'm saying? It's not specific to America, right? A lot of immigrant families that came to America think that this is a horrible time that the world has always been like this. And if you look at our own countries, and that it comes down to the root of nationalism. Nationalism is going to do this, right? But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. You said in about 2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks is when... but the whole thing is a wake-up call for Erdogan as well, because even among his base, he's found a lot of discontent, people who are discouraged in his leadership. And he's going to have to do some work to make his base happy again. He's never dipped below 50% in any of his elections. So
I know this is a difficult question. I don't want to put you guys on the spot, but what are some of those things that, I mean, the buzzword here is leadership, right? Some of his leadership to be disgruntled, why did that happen?
Well, one of them is, at least from what his opposition did, was criticize his work in the earthquake efforts, and he lost a lot of support in the areas or the regions where he had a lot of support were hit hardest by the earthquake, and those voters didn't come out with as much strength as he had hoped. So he definitely lost support over there, and then general policies related to Israel and stuff like that really upset a lot of Muslims. Some overtures that were made in making deals with the Zionist entity certainly pissed off a lot of Muslims. So there's that as well.
But I think even the Muslims who would find that to be an issue because, who are practicing, they can still obviously tell that putting someone who is, like the opposition to power would be far worse for any kind of Muslim agenda anyways.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to it, bro, when you can't put food in people's mouth, people will get upset. So Turkey's inflation really upset people. When you can't buy things, or when you're losing the strength of your currency, you're gonna lose a lot of voters.
Well, it affected Turkey in two ways. Not only that, not even the buying power went down, but there's something called shrinkage economy also. Are you familiar with that? What that means is the price will be the same, but the quantity you get is less. So let's say you went to, I don't know, let's say the fast food joint.
Yeah.
The average burger was, I don't know, $8-9 for a meal, right?
Yeah.
Whatever, right? So let's say the inflation, they don't want to raise the price. What they do though is that they use less resources, so you might get less fries. Maybe you won't get pickles with your food. Right. And so the quantity which you get for is less. So the price may not change with the item, but you're getting much less for what you paid for.
Yeah. I know. I talk about that all the time.
And that happened in Turkey as well. Yeah, and part of the reason why that happened was Erdogan had a long-term goal. It's very similar, by the way, to Pakistan, which we're gonna make a segue into, but. It's very similar in a way where Erdogan understood that there has to be a period of economic toughness or uneasiness in order to get Turkey to be independent of IMF and other countries. Like he wanted, in my understanding, Turkey to increase its own GDP by production, manufacturing. Stop buying things from China. Try to manufacture as much as you can in-house. Things like produce, which obviously they already are known for, but even like instead of like for people that have been to Turkey, the bootleg market is big, right? Before a lot of stuff used to come from China. Recently, he kind of put a curb to that, saying, listen, you make it in-house, right? So a lot of these leather factories were then turning into places where they produce replica items, right? So yes, it's more difficult because of less profit in the beginning, more work, but the idea was that everything you earn and make, you're stimulating your own economy. People are getting jobs, right? things like that. Like, I mean, even like the candy like you buy, all the even produce you buy from there, even like the plastic they make is is packaged in Turkey. Like all that stuff, right? He wanted to get to the point where you are as independent as possible, because he understands that one of the ways that, so you have to understand the way the Western powers divided the Muslim lands was that no single country or border that had like the defined borders would have all the resources it needs to be independent. No. It would always be missing something. Right? Like if you look at America, right, it has oil, produce, land, water, everything. It's self-sufficient if it wanted to be. There's not a single Muslim country that has that. There's always something that they need. And what does that do? That forces them either to make deals or to take loans.
Or go to war.
Go to war, right. So that's by design that these countries, like for example, Pakistan right now has amazing ability to make resources, right? It has one of the largest reserves of copper, gold, produce, fertile land, water supply. I mean, if you wanted to, you could take it, right? But what are they lacking? They lack energy independence. They're severely energy dependent. But like, it's funny because 100 miles away from the Gwadar port, they're exporting barrels and barrels of oil every day.
Oh snap!
Right. So the idea being here is that the country will not ever be in a position it can be completely independent unless borders change, or unless they make concessions, or unless they go to war, or they take loans, absorbent amount of loans. Right? And in the case of Pakistan, what they did was, since we can probably move to Pakistan, right?
Yeah.
What they did was they appealed to the corrupt people in power, and these corrupt people in power used these IMF loans, because when the Americans used Afghanistan to fight the Soviets in Afghanistan, right, when they used the Pakistani to fight the Soviet influence in Afghanistan, they rewarded Pakistan by saying, we'll give you unlimited credit with the IMF. And these corrupt Jahil people in office, they used it like their own personal credit card. And they racked up like loans and loans and loans without seeing the implication that now you have high interest, you're indebted to these people, you have to do what they say, because when you can't pay your debt back and you can't even pay the interest back on the debt, you're defaulting. The only way to do it is get more credit, get more time, and that means more concessions, more bargaining chips for the people who have control over you, right? They can put more pressure on you to do what they want you to do, whether that be building bases, launching military operations, social agendas like LGBTQ, gender equality. All of that can be packaged within deals, right? You need more money. We got you by the cojones right now. Like, we got you. So you're going to take what we give you. Firm grip. They got you. So they're gonna say, listen, you got to take it, right? And they're in a place where who else is going to bail them out? Muslim countries, some of them can't afford to pay the money they owe to them at IMF. These are trillions of dollars, right? So how do you do that, right? And that was effectively what happened. So people, a combination of both things, that they made them dependent, the Western colonial powers made them dependent on something, and then the people they put in power that were puppets, they profited from it. And those are the first people that would run from Pakistan if there was a civil war. They got homes in the UK, in Switzerland, in France. Their children are living there. They have massive amounts of wealth. And right now they're pulling the strings, but if things get out of hand, like right now, if Imran Khan gets arrested again, there's going to be a civil war. They've exhausted all methods. Even Saudi Arabia tried to negotiate, and the army, junta, whatever, they're not even budging a moment. Like,
wait, sorry, can we unpack that a little bit?
Yeah. So right now,
Saudi tried to.
Yeah, they're trying to find a way to because a stable Pakistan is a good thing for Saudi Arabia. An unstable Pakistan is a very dangerous thing for Saudi Arabia, not only for its labor sources, but for obviously people don't know this, but they depend heavily on Pakistani's air force. Military for their own private reasons, because it's a guarantee for them. Because obviously the Pakistani military is much stronger than Saudi Arabia and the Gulf in general, right? They're a nuclear power in that sense, right? So a lot of that has implications for that region, and Saudi has seen itself as the big daddy in the region, right? So they've been trying to broker a deal. The deal between who? Imran Khan and the people of Pakistan versus the military. The military and chief justices, the whole... you weren't on the last episode, I don't think, but the guy broke it down nice too, is that there are people who want to maintain power, and they're flexing their muscles because they're trying to solidify longevity in their positions. And with Imran Khan, that wasn't too sure, because there was a lot of things that came out about corruption and, two-timing, and they didn't know what was going to happen with their position. So they created this whole drama. And right now, the military is trying to consolidate power by removing Imran Khan, which they've done. And then the opposition party that's in power right now is very close with the military, right? For their own reasons, to oust Imran Khan. So he was arrested after he was removed from power, after the special elections, whatever it was, or his own party betrayed him in some ways. They paid them off. And now we see now that he was arrested. The country rose in an uprising, put the military on alert. They were forced to release him. And now apparently we're getting news that the military has surrounded his house in Lahore. And like they're saying...
So is he under house arrest right now, basically?
No, he's not supposed to be. The Chief Justice had cleared him of all wrongdoings. There's no corruption. He shouldn't have been arrested. But now, because the other political parties have put pressure on other justices in the military is illegally surrounding his home. Yeah. And they're saying there's probably an imminent arrest going to happen. Right? And so...
And that's when things are going to get real wild.
Well, right now it's already breaking out because they put pressure on Imran Khan's his party, and some people have left the party, right? And other members who were arrested before, they've been rearrested now. So they're trying to crumble the base, right? To the point where Imran Khan can't get support. But the difference is that now it's up to the people of Pakistan to take up to the streets. And that's when it gets bad.
And Turkey and Imran Khan they're very close ties, right? Government of Imran Khan?
In general, not even just politically, but Turkish people love Pakistanis. Yeah. It's a known thing. Like there's a very close relationship between the two. Yeah. So right now, that's what we're looking at. Where Pakistan right now could descend into a civil war. And many people, from what I'm reading on, is that they're saying that they've given up on if Imran Khan is arrested, they've given up on the idea that it could be rectified, meaning that there can be some positive solution from this. They're saying that means the military has taken full control, like martial law, and they're trying to oppress the people, and there's going to be a lot worse coming. So their options are that they're going to have to fight.
So is this kind of like, remember in Egypt, the police and the military and the people that so is there that same dynamic, or is the police kind of with the military in Pakistan, or are they against each other?
Very much so. I mean, like we say that in Egypt, right, that the military is really the deep state, right? They own land, they have businesses, they're the kingmakers, right? Same thing in Pakistan. They own land, businesses. I mean, me. That's why when they were burning things down, they were burning things that were owned by military officials.
So where do the police stand? Are they with the military, or are they...
Police are independent of the military, but some sides, some don't. Yeah, but there are also a lot of military members, low-level military members, who refuse to carry out actions against civilians. So they're also being kicked out, court-martialed.
Dang.
Yeah, so it's this is the elite of the military, right, that has this control. And they're the ones that are the deep state in Pakistan. They're the ones who are the kingmakers. They're the ones who want to have that relationship with America. Why? Because they get money. Yeah. Right? They get supported by the Americans. And that money that they get, it funds their lavish lifestyles. Right? They don't need that money for exercise drills. They're not doing that. They're taking that money. That's why the Panama Files are so big, because so many of these people had gotten money as gifts, and they have to report, I think they call it Toka Khana, which is like the place where they have government officials have to report everything. Like if you get a gift, let's say they give you a BMW, you have to throw it to that place where they get it, right? And then you have to declare it. If you want to pay, there's only a certain amount of gift you can get. Anything above that, you have to pay the amount, then pay the taxes. But they weren't doing any of that stuff. They were stealing this money. They're just milking it, moving money around, right? None of that money was going to Pakistan, and so this is by design for the military. The military, that's why these people live in elitist towns like Defense or Bahriya town, right? They're not in touch with the common people,
When you went to Pakistan, you visited defense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How was that?
It's a really nice area. What do you
I
mean?
heard. I mean, like, how was your experience? Do you like it? Do you?
No, I
Can
mean,
you
if
see
you
yourself
live in,
moving over there?
I wouldn't move to there or any place for that matter. But I would love to, but my situation doesn't allow me to. But is that a great place to live? Of course. You're the most wealthiest of Pakistanis live in defense in Pakistan. So defense is this area of Karachi where the elites live. So
imagine like you have like Beverly Hills and Skid Row. Like, of course, Beverly Hills is wonderful, right? Everything looks great. Neighbors come out in the morning. Hey, how you doing? Grass is green. You know, everything's going on. Life is good here. You got the king of the hill. Literally, there's a bridge. You remember that bridge you go over that goes over Liadi and then you go into defense?
yeah.
That's literally, everything else is like
Oakland.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like
Oakland, California.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
Across the
basically,
bridge.
yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, wild, wild west, right? Especially, and that's just but they don't have an understanding. Like, okay, put it this way. The average kid in Pakistan who's walking around, you know, they don't have much. They don't have, you know, you're talking about video games and all this kind of stuff. Like you're talking about eating out at McDonald's and these kind of things. No, bro. Like they're very simple people. But you go to defense and it's like very much like an urban, suburban kid here. They got their Nikes on. They're listening to music. They're very fashionable. They're eating at McDonald's inside the compound. They have they're going to Starbucks. Like it's very much like a Beverly Hills type of attitude, right? Like the elite. And so if you have money and you're living there, it's great. They have paved roads, very good armed security. You have constant electricity. Water supply is fresh. Everything is good. The grass is green. The homes are maintained. Everything is there. But then the minute you come out of a compound, it's like apocalyptic.
Dang.
Yeah.
What an interesting world we're living in, man.
Well, a lot of this has to do with the upcoming Pakistani elections as well. So there's a fear among the PTI supporters, the party that Imran Khan has, that he won't be able to participate in the elections, and that's why they're trying to arrest him, so that to prevent him from running in the elections. So that's coming up in, I believe, in fall this year, October, I want to say. But yeah.
Other than Saudi Arabia,
Yeah.
who else had their input about Imran Khan's removal? Any world powers that were very like pro Imran Khan and
There's a lot of pro Imran Khan, but there's not even among, surprisingly, even among like Western journalists, Imran Khan is a very good politician in that sense, where he's been able to even maintain good relationships with like journalists like Piers Morgan. He's like a regular on his show. Piers loves him. Always is inviting him, and he has a very good balance where he doesn't put the fear of radical Islam or something like that in Western journalists. So he has that charm and the charisma to assuage their fears. But that being said, Western governments don't like him because he doesn't toe the line. He's not going to them for money. He's not buying their weapons. He's buying Russian weapons. He went to Russia. That really upset. The ultimate line that he crossed was going to Russia for aid instead of going to the United States. And the United States basically gave the signal to the Pakistani army that, hey, he's out of favor in Washington and we want him gone. And that's ultimately what happened.
That's
because the complete shift in tone and attitude towards him was still fairly, neutral up until that point. He was losing favor because he was going to China as well. And but when he went to Russia, that was like he crossed the line. And that's when I think during the week of when the Ukraine war started, or right before the Ukraine war, I could be wrong, but ultimately that really upset.
It was right before the Ukraine war.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the U.S. wanted to use Pakistan as a place to launch, to build some kind of, or launch attacks from, and Imran Khan blatantly and open public news said absolutely not.
Yeah, he said he publicly called the Pakistani alliance in the U.S. war on terrorism the worst mistake Pakistan made.
And he was correct in that.
Absolutely. It cost, 60,000 Pakistani lives.
I mean, he spoke the obvious truth that every Pakistani was feeling, that we don't want the Americans here.
Right.
That's just the reality. And that cost him, right? Like, to publicly slap America in the face, America's telling them there's going to be consequences. And what do? Covert operations to support the military, who they know is on their side because the military benefits from America being involved in Pakistan. This goes back to the 80s. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Anything else you guys want to talk about? I know some people are
chirping away.
Do you want to maybe post a link for the StreamYard maybe in the meantime while I yap away and see if anybody wants to join in? I don't know, but I think
we're towards the end of the show.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
So guys, sorry if you got the StreamYard link today, but if you have any questions, type them up right now, so we can just maybe quickly address in the next couple of minutes here before we shut up. And get done with the show here. Sim, please open up the bottom on your shirt. It's bothering me.
Open up the top button, I think he means.
Oh, the top button.
Wow, it looks nice. It looks. Yeah. Just do it for the guy. Who is it?
Yeah,
Depends who it is.
His name is Bilal Tariq.
Yeah, it sounds
if you were a woman, I think maybe we might have an argument, but...
Oh, you see my necklaces now. There you go.
So, anyways, listen. Let's read through some comments. We should also know Ataturk was only married for 2 years. His ex-wife letters are held by the government, so they don't get out to the public. Rumors are Ataturk was gay but liked young boys. That could be true. I remember speaking. Actually, do you remember that one story we heard, Sim, when we were younger? That when Ataturk was being buried, the earth would spit him out. I don't know how true that is. Do you remember that story? I think I heard it like in a Hizb circle.
No, that one. No, you're thinking of, bro. You're thinking about the.
No, I heard about Ataturk, bro. Someone told me.
It wasn't.
I swear it was the Hizb story.
Wait, say it again. What did you hear?
They're trying to bury Ataturk, and the ground would just throw his body out.
What happened to Firaun, basically?
Bro, my mom would tell us about this story about this one boy who didn't listen to his mom or disrespected. What was his name, bro? He was always spit out of the ground or something.
I don't remember that. Bro.
I was never told that story. Sounds pretty scary, bro.
Okay, so while you think about the story...
Wow, that's why you had to... you stayed away from a lot of stuff, bro.
Yeah, his mother terrified
No, that's why he stayed away from a lot of stuff when he was younger, bro.
I did, man.
God bless our mothers.
But I was very antisocial, too. I just hated everyone.
He was, dude.
Alhamdulillah, bro. If that's the price of staying away from haram, that's good, bro.
I tried to be friends with people
when I was young. It took me so long to break him in.
But then I ended up hating everyone. Yeah. And I just stayed in my... I stayed in my basement, and my mom would call up her friends, and she would say, oh, can you have your son come pick... You remember Haris, right? Who lived like a...
Haris? Yeah.
He'd come in with his Camaro.
Right? Yeah.
He'd come in with his Camaro. I had no idea who the guy was, and I just saw him around here and there. I mean, he'd drop me off to school once in a while, but he'd like take me to the YMA community center. Mm-hmm. I would feel so awkward because I knew
YMCA.
YMA. Remember the YMA Young Muslim
the one that the
association at the mosque?
Yeah.
Started.
So, him and his buddy.
I'd go there, not talk to anyone, just see, your brother actually led many of those sessions, and but it's still like maintained some kind of link, man. Like just even
it kind of started everything at IFS, kind of like youth activities.
But man, that brother just Haris, who took me there, that still like rekindled some kind of attachment for me with the Muslim community, because I was like done with them. I just didn't want to deal with them anymore. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do my own thing, and one little thing, one little act of generosity or kindness.
He was a good dude. He was a nice dude.
Kept completely cool dude. And he'd like small acts of kindness like that changes the trajectory of people's lives. Yeah. That's why I always tell my kids and anyone like I'm talking to them, like, yo, you don't have to make your goals so lofty that I'm gonna start an organization, or you could just do small acts of kindness towards people just to change that navigation. Like when you're off on a few degrees on your boat and you're heading, or you're on an airplane and you're heading towards a destination, you'll completely miss it, right? But if you can turn someone's life around just by a couple degrees, you can get them generally to where they want to go, which is ultimately Jannah, right?
Yeah.
And change the entire direction of their life. You don't have to give them $1 million or tens of thousands of dollars. You could just help them out here and there. Just what's the saying called? Teach a man to fish.
Yeah.
You know, just help them out a little bit so that the entire direction of their life is forever changed. You know.
Yeah. That's why character is important, man. Allah increase our character, bro.
I mean,
we all need improvement.
So just a quick other comments here. I read on Bloomberg that they expected inflation to hit 90% before falling in 2023 to about 44%. Right now it is about that level, and it might fall further. Yeah, I mean, so yes, I mean, there's clearly a bunch of economic issues that are happening right now, and that's part of the reason. Actually, absolutely, somebody would like us to. Maybe perhaps Brother Ala Ad-Din wants us to do record an episode about Palestine. Inshallah, one day we will. We have done in the past.
Yeah, we've had AMP on.
Yes, we've had many Hatem.
Yeah, but I think we're due again. I think
we've had many of these different Palestinian activists on as well too. Inshallah, we'll do another one very soon, especially with the recent events.
Yes, sir.
And it seems like the killings have ramped up in the last couple of months. So we definitely will do one, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, on Palestine, bi'idhnillah. I think that's about it for this tonight, guys. We appreciate you guys that tuned in, and if you guys can do a favor, we have 36 people here. If you guys can all make sure you guys hit the like button and try to share it to somebody, even if we're ending it, they can catch the replay. But try to share it to at least one person, so
and
you can
throw a comment in the comment section.
Yeah, and and if you something that you want to correct or throw a comment you want us to talk about, comment at us. So there was a brother last week who wants to speak about this. Unfortunately, I don't know if we can get in touch with him too late, but we're happy to talk about the subjects that you want. And if you want to come on and say something, we'll be happy to put up a StreamYard link next time, and you guys can jump on and share your views and say your piece.
Yeah, that's our show. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you all next time. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.